Hello, everyone, and welcome. It is February 2nd, and I am finally going to do my 2025 worst to best ranking of every single book that I read, which was 110. I should have looked at how many I read last year, but I didn't. You can go back at the video and see, but I think it was a similar amount, somewhere around there. And a couple things I'm not going to include. I did a couple like game books. I'm not going to include those. I read like a poetry book. I read the Weird Frequencies anthology, but I'm a part of it, so I don't feel like it's fair to rank that. I read like a sci-fi digest in its entirety. I read a handful of short stories. I'm not going to include those, but every like full-length novel that I read was 110. And I am going to rank them from my least favorite to my favorite. And of course, this is my opinion. I think I'm fairly satisfied with the ranking, but this is my ranking at this moment in time. And that could change tomorrow, next year. And some of the things in the middle could probably switch around some, but I think more or less going on my gut, this is how I felt. And I'm cool with it. I'm going to run through somewhat quickly, because I don't want to be here all day. You don't want to be here all day. So I'll probably give a brief synopsis and brief thoughts on it. And if you want to hear more about it, just go back to my monthly reading wrap-ups throughout the year where I talk about everything in more detail. Also, I did not look back at my ratings that I gave to each book because, I could have just gone back and been like, here's all my 2.5s, here's all my 3s, and then arrange them within that. But I don't like doing that. I don't like going back to even see what I rated it because that's what I rated it when it was fresh in my mind. I want to think about it now in terms of how much of it stayed in my head. Did my feelings on it change since then when I've had time to ruminate on it? Because some books like I enjoy in the moment, and then when I think back on them, I'm like, I don't even remember what happened. So it couldn't have been that good. So this is how I feel about these things now at the end of the year, not looking back on what I rated them at the time. Yeah, and that's it. So I guess we can get started. Sorry it took me so long to get to this. Life's been lifing, and I'm not going to say I haven't had time because I have, but I just haven't wanted to, haven't felt like it. Sorry, but I'm here now, and I'm gonna do it. So let's start with the worst book in my 2025 reading. Worst book I read. Oh God, I should have pulled up more information. I didn't pull up the authors. You'll just have to look. I'll throw up the title or the cover over here. But Up the Line by Robert Silverberg is my least favorite book that I read this year. It's a science fiction book about time travel, and some of the actual time travel stuff, logistics of the time travel that he sets up are interesting. The concept of time travel tourism is interesting. I just don't think the execution was all that great. But the reason it's all the way at the bottom is because almost every male character in this book is just a misogynistic, horrible, rapey piece of shit, which I don't mind morally bad characters. I think that's great. But it should have a point. It should make sense in the story. Like if there's only one or two morally terrible characters and there's like also really good characters to balance that, I understand that we're living in the real world and there are bad people. But when every single character behaves in such a outlandishly creepy, weird way, I'm starting to think, okay, are we commenting on something in this future world? But if so, that point was not driven across either. So it just came off as gross. It was kind of a gross reading experience, and I didn't like it. So there you go. Next one, 109, Curfew, by someone. So this is a newer science fiction book, and I listened to it on audio with my wife in the car when we were on a road trip going somewhere, and I knew nothing about it. She knew nothing about it. We'd forgotten to download like a book for the trip, and she just got on Libby and was looking at like what is available now and just kind of, picked it. It's kind of the whole book is just kind of like not good, but I probably would have given it like a 2 or 2.5, just because I'm like, yeah, it's fine. It's not good. But but the ending is kind of why it's all the way at the bottom. So spoiler, I guess, if you care. But basically the story is about the society in which men have committed horrible crimes towards women, violent crimes, enough in society that they've decided men have a curfew now. They have to stay indoors overnight because that's when most crimes are committed. Like they can wake up and go to work and stuff, which, sure. I'm a man, but I also understand that men have commit plenty of terrible, violent crimes against women. So, like, sure, I'm on board. I'm listening. We're making social commentary. Cool. The problem is that while I am a feminist and I do see that this is a problem, I might not agree to the extent that the author does. Like, she hates men, and that's fine. Basically, the ending of this book was not like, hey, there are problems with society that we need to address, but the answer is not giving men a curfew. And I would have been like, yeah, cool. But that's not what the message. The message at the end of this book is, hey, men are a problem. Locking them up at night is not good enough. We need to do more. It was insane. The messaging was insane. And so now you might be wondering, okay, Brian, why did you put the woman-hating book all the way at the bottom and the man-hating book slightly above it? And that's because the woman-hating book, the woman hating it made no sense and felt gross. The man-hating book felt gross, but at least it was consistent with the messaging that the author was trying to get across. Even if it's messaging I didn't like. Anyways, they both suck. So moving on. Number 108 was Animorphs 36, The Mutation. I love the Animorphs series. I have talked about it time and again on my read-through. I'm reading through all the books in order as an adult. This is the worst one so far. This is the only Animorphs book that I truly did not like. It did not seem thematically consistent with the rest of them. Characters made bizarre choices, and the actual plot is just stupid. We go to the bottom of the ocean, and there's apparently been this race of fish people that have lived down there forever. It's just outlandish. It's a total and complete jump the shark moment for the lore that we have built up in this series thus far, and it sucks. Number 107, Dominion's Crystal Tome. I did a whole video review of this book if you want to hear me talk about it more, but this was released from Commonwealth Publishing, which was a Canadian 90s vanity press, but not vanity press. Like, it was kind of a vanity press, but they advertised themselves as not being one. They ended up being sued by a lot of the authors over the way that they operated, etc., etc. Anyways, I found this book. I was fascinated by it. It looked ridiculous, and I read it, and this is like a bad B movie that you watch because it's so bad it's good. And it did have some aspects that were so outlandish and ridiculous that it was fun. But for the most part, it was a bit of a slog. And inarguably, it's just not good. It's just not a good book. In terms of what it's about, I don't know. It's about some like animals that live in the Canadian wilderness, and then an alien lands, and then there's also this dinosaur thing, and one of the animals is like a rock star. I don't know, something like that. And then number 106, we got Goosebumps number 34, Revenge of the Lawn Gnomes. I don't like when the Goosebumps gets overly silly. If you don't know and haven't been following this channel, I'm reading through all the Goosebumps in order as an adult, which I am. I don't know if you could tell. Reading through them in order, and some of them, I think what I'm finding is that a lot of them are like kind of a little boring, a little silly, just don't quite hit the mark for me. Some of them hit the mark, and they have that perfect blend of silly, creepy, weird, fun, and they're just like, exactly what I wanted out of these books. And then some of them, like this one, are just silly and zany to the point that it's like almost cringy for me to read. And maybe I would have enjoyed it more as a child, but as an adult, I just found this one to be so silly and obnoxious, and I just did not like it. It's about lawn gnomes that are evil. Next one, Goosebumps 39, How I Got My Shrunken Head. Sorry if sometimes on this list I like group things like this together, but it's hard for me to, I can tell which one of the ones that I liked more than the other, but like ranking them against other books, sometimes they're like, well, all of these had the same problem, so they go here or whatever. But Goosebumps, How I Got My Shrunken Head is really more of a silly, zany, fun adventure story than it is a scary story. And again, I'm just not really into the Goosebumps ones that are just like no scary stuff, all silly stuff. They just feel a little over the top. Yeah. And then Goosebumps 38, The Abominable Snowman of Pasadena. Again, more adventure than scary, more silly than anything else. This one was a little bit better than the other two, but just not a winner for me in the Goosebumps series. Next one I read, I'm so used to saying that. The next one on the list was The Door into Summer by Heinlein. This is the first Heinlein I've read. I've heard many things, both good and bad, about Heinlein, and I wanted to give him a try, so I kind of picked a random one. So this one does have a few creepy elements, similar to Silverberg's Up the Line, but not to that extent. And honestly, it didn't bother me. It was a little weird, but like I didn't care. But I just found this one to be so boring. The story is about this guy who basically freezes himself for like a 20-year period. Some other people might have tricked him into becoming frozen for a 20-year period, and then the thought is you come out later, same age, but the money you have put in your investments have grown, and now you're a richer person, so you can go through the world a bit easier. And it turns out he's had his business stolen from him by like his girlfriend, his ex-girlfriend, and like his ex-best friend, and they've become like billionaires off of his ideas. He's this engineer. And then the whole book kind of like delves into him trying to make it as an engineer in this future world, and some stuff about his business. And I was just like, who cares? The next one I read, oh God, how many times am I going to say that? Number 102 on my list is A Morbid Taste for Bones. I read this with the Elusive Exclusive Book Society, which is Pulp Mortem, Secret Fire Books, and the Book Graveyard, where they do a sort of book club thing, and they invited me on to read this one. And I've been wanting to get more into the mystery genre, and this was a mystery that takes place in England, Scotland, can't remember. But it's like a monk back in the in the days. Anyways, it's a cool concept. It's like this monk like used to have this badass life fighting in the Crusades and stuff, and he's retired and now he lives in this abbey, but he always seems to find himself investigating these local murders, I guess, because there's a whole series of these books. And I don't know if it was just my mindset or what, but I just could not get into this. I found it to be so boring. I don't know. I really struggled to care with this one. The murder mystery itself was kind of boring. The setting was a little boring. I don't know. I remember in the discussion, they're like, "Whoa, did you predict the murder?" And I was like, honestly, I was barely following. I didn't care. I don't know. This is one of those where I'm like, does it deserve to be this low on the list? Probably not. But my own personal reading experience, I just was not into it at all. And then for 101, we have Rogue Angel 6, The Lost Scrolls. As I talked about every time I talk about this series, the first 8 or 9 books, which I haven't even made it that far yet, kind of flip-flop because Alex Archer is a house name, and they kind of flip-flop from Mel Odom and Victor Milan. The Mel Odom books so far have been great. The Victor Milan books have been bad. And then I think once you hit book 8 or 9, they bring in a whole slew of various writers. But this series is basically a Tomb Raider knockoff, where she has this magical sword that she can just stick her hand out and it appears, and then when she wants it to go away, it drops into wherever. But other than that, she's this kind of quirky host of a History Channel travel archaeology show, and she investigates these archaeological mysteries that tie into real things in history, and I kind of love it. It's really, really fun for me. I like these sort of episodic, you find a character you like and you just watch it. It feels like a TV show that I'm just watching, like a Monster of the Week one, though. There's not a ton of through lines. There definitely can be read as standalones, but it just feels like, I don't know, it's comfort food. I really like the character. I like Indiana Jones type stuff and Tomb Raider type stuff, and it's just fun. This particular one was one of the Victor Milan books, and it's not that fun. The mystery is very convoluted, almost makes no sense. I barely followed the plot, and there's the action scenes, because these are action books, just felt thrown in, okay, we have to have a gunfight now. And I'm like, why? I don't know. Yeah, just not great. There are better ones. Then we've got Goosebumps, Monster Blood 3. I'm not a big fan of the Monster Blood series. Just not into it. It's not my thing, man. And Monster Blood 3 has a kid becoming giant because Monster Blood makes you big. So you've got the dog in the first one that gets big, and the hamster in the second one that gets big, and now you've got a boy that gets big. And this one also felt very silly. It involves this next door neighbor little kid who's a mad scientist, and I'm like, okay, we've got a little kid mad scientist, sure. Yeah, I don't know, not my thing. And then Goosebumps 35, A Shocker on Shock Street. This one involves some kids going to their parents' set that they work at, because they film horror movies, and they are making a roller coaster ride that is going to tie into all of the horror movies that they make. And so they decide to get on this ride. Oh god, 19 minutes in and I'm already losing my voice here. Anyways, it was okay. It's just very, very for me. I don't really have much to say about it. This is where it falls. Next, as number 98, we have All Heads Turn When the Hunt Goes By. And this one I read with the Secret Society Read, which is another little book club group I'm a part of. We do it with Literally Books, Liminal Spaces, and myself. And actually, I believe Infinite Text is going to be a part of our group next time we do a video. But this was Virgil's Choice, and I was excited because I'd always wanted to read this book. Sorry, my throat. I've always wanted to read this book because it's a classic of the horror literature genre. This is a very highly regarded book. But for me, it was a total miss. I've read a John Ferris before, and I was kind of bored by it. But I thought, well, I probably just read a bad one. But this one, I don't know. People really hype up the like atmosphere that is built, this sort of Southern Gothic atmosphere. But I just think I've read that better in many books. And the story itself, I found to be very boring, and I just didn't care about the characters. A couple of the supernatural element scenes were fun and well done, but on the whole, I just found this book to be quite the slog. Number 97, I read The Nurse and the Crystal Ball. I found a bunch of nurse romance novels, and I did an interview with someone in my last video who is a bit of an expert in nurse romance novels, and if you're interested, you should definitely go check that out. This is the first one I read, and I was hoping it had a bit of a supernatural element to it because it says Nurse and the Crystal Ball. Unfortunately, that is not really the case. It's just kind of, it's well written, but it's a bit boring. Not much happens. There's not a whole lot of romance. It's kind of like a little bit of a mystery, but not even a murder mystery, just kind of a very lighthearted, cozy sort of little mystery. It was a short read. I certainly wasn't like upset that I read it. It just didn't do that much for me. Next, we've got Space Relations by Donald Barr. This is an interesting book. I read this with Jake from Pulp Mortem. This book is tied to conspiracy theories at the moment due to Mr. Jeffrey Epstein. The history behind it, loosely, is that Donald Barr, former Attorney General Donald Barr, was a mentor to Jeffrey Epstein. And this book that he wrote, that Barr wrote, is a science fiction book that takes place on a sort of sex slavery planet. And so a lot of people wonder if there's any sort of information in the book that will lay out Epstein, where his origins or something. No, it doesn't. Spoiler. But also the book itself is just not that great. It's just kind of boring, and then towards the end there's some buddy level of problematic. But I did put it above a bunch of stuff on this list because like it's kind of fun. There's like some decent entertainment value in it, but still we're not to the part of the list where things are good, so it's not good. Next ones on the list, number 95 and 94, are Crash Course and Crash Landing by Nicole Davidson. I read these with Eric from the Paperback Warrior. These are 90s YA thrillers, or YA horror if you want to call them that, young adult. And speaking of which, I forgot to give you guys my little breakdown. Why don't we just stop right here? And I read 11 young adult books. I read 29 middle grade books this year. The rest were adult. I read 40 horror books, 35 science fiction books, 13 fantasy, 9 thriller, 8 action and adventure, 3 westerns, and 2 mysteries. Okay, back to the list. I'm so prepared. All right. Crash Course is a little bit lower. These books are, and Crash Course is one thing higher, but neither of them were that great. They're just these sort of like whodunit murder mystery type things, couched in a young adult thriller setting. They're not well done. They're convoluted. They're kind of boring, and yeah, I don't have much to say about them. They're just not that great. Then we have Goosebumps number 40, Night of the Living Dummy. This one, again, as I've said, I'm not a Living Dummy fan. Slappy's not my favorite. And while I really loved the Night of the Living Dummy 3 episode as a kid, the book just didn't do it for me. And it plays on the trope of like the kids know something, the reader knows something, and the whole book they're like trying to show someone, be it their mom and dad or someone else, and prove that like, no, look, I swear I'm seeing this weird thing. And then every time they show them, like, there's nothing weird, which is fine to do once or twice. But when you get a whole book of that, it's like, it becomes frustrating for the reader. And I'm like, come on, like, let's go. Next one, Shivers 5, The Locked Room. I found this to be kind of boring. A lot of the Shivers books feel a little more juvenile than the Goosebumps books, a little less fun. They take themselves a little more seriously, but they're a bit milder in terms of what actually happens. I've read a couple that are, a bit more fun. But yeah, it's just mid. It's like a little less than mid. It's just not that interesting. Next one I read as a collab with Burn Enough, a military science fiction channel, and this was Accidental Astronaut. And it starts out with a really interesting premise, I guess, where you've got this bush pilot, and he takes out this like Navy SEAL type guy on a fishing trip in the Alaskan bush, and these scientists end up shooting both of them with like tranquilizer darts, and then they think that he is this pilot is the like Navy SEAL dude, and they like kidnap him and take him onto this spaceship thing where they're going on this mission to but convince this giant alien thing that's going to pass by the planet and it's going to kill Earth. And so they're like going on this mission to be like, hey, can you not pass us so closely? You're going to kill us. And they realize that they have captured the wrong guy. They just captured this everyday Joe. And it's a fun premise, but once we get out into space, I found that the world building of these other aliens was just kind of lackluster, uninteresting. I just didn't care. And then the actual like plot and characters and like, yeah, it's like I was so into it in the first fifth of the book, and then we get into the meat of it, and I was like, I don't know, and it adopts this comedic tone, like it's trying to be Dungeon Crawler Carl or the Bobiverse books or Project Hail Mary, but it's not very successful with it, in my opinion. I don't know, wasn't my thing. Probably nothing wrong with it, but not my thing. Next one was Cradle number 3, Black Flame. I was reading through the Cradle series. I read 2 of the books last year and then finally made it to book 3 this year. I'm not super into them. They're fine. I don't know. They're basically anime in prose form. And I'm not a big anime person. I don't really like it. And so it's just not for me. Like, I think it's fine. I think it's like progression fantasy, whereas like the character starts out as the weakest character in the world, and by the end of this 12-book series, he's the most powerful character in this world. And I can see how that would be satisfying to read and fun, and but it's just not my thing. 3 books in, and I don't dislike it, and I would probably read the rest, but it's not a priority, and there's so many other things I want to read, it's probably going to fall to the wayside. Executioner 5, Continental Contract, is number 89. If you don't know, the Executioner series, the first 38 were written by Don Pendleton, and after that he sold the rights to use his name as a house name, and it was written by a slew of people over the years, and there are 400 and some books, not including the 100 and some books that are in the Mac Bolan spinoff, and the 100 and some books in the Phoenix Force spinoff, and the Able Team spinoff, and the if you want to read some Executioner books, like, you could do that and not read anything else for the rest of your life. And I wanted to get a sampling of the Don Pendleton era books before I branched out and just read random ones. And so I read the first 5. And I feel like they were all kind of ranging in a hit or miss level for me, but all sort of mid. Like, I've read a lot of action adventure, men's adventure books, and these have not been high on my list. They're fine. I'm just not really into the mafia thing. They take themselves a little more seriously than I'd like in these books. I like it when they're a little bit more outlandish. This one has Mac Bowling going to a different country. If I recall, he's in France, Paris. And that's cool. And there's nothing wrong with this. It's a fine little spy mafia adventure. It's just, it's all right. Next one I read was The Dinosaur... not the next one you read. Next one on my list was The Dinosaur Trackers. I did a whole video on this series, this young adult series from the 90s called Robert Silverberg's Time Tours. These books take place in the world of Up the Line, my least favorite book of the year. All 6 of these are much better than Up the Line. They involve time tourism. And I did a whole deep dive on this series. If you want to check it out, go to that video. But this one was my least favorite of that series. Next one I read... Next one on my list was Black Sheep. This was a more modern book that I read for an in-person horror book club. And it's cozy horror is the only way I can describe it. It's well written. It has interesting characters. I liked the premise. There's nothing wrong with this book. It's just kind of mild. Not a lot happens, and then it's over. And it was very predictable. It's just fine. It's just fine. And then also the next one is Horror Movie. And this is another one that I had higher hopes for. I read another book by this author and I really liked it. But this one just didn't quite do it for me, which is a shame because I love horror movies, and this is all about this sort of like horror movie that a bunch of bad things happened on the set of, and it was never released, but it developed this sort of cult following, and they decide to remake it, and it's sort of all about telling in a creative way the tragedies that occurred during the original filming and how that ties in with what's happening now. It was okay. I just didn't quite like how it all came together, but it's all right. It's all right. Edge number 6, Red River. This is one of the Piccadilly Westerns, a movement of Westerns that were written by British authors who were trying to kind of cop the style of the Italian spaghetti Westerns, where they just wanted violence, blood, gore in their Western, which that sounds great. And I read 2 Edge books this year. One of them I had a fantastic time with, and this one was fine. This one delves a lot more into Edge's past, and it's like half Edge's past and half stuff that's happening in the present. It was okay. It's less violent than the first one, and I believe it might be slightly a continuation of the story told in his past. I think might have been told a little bit in previous books, and I might have come in the middle and been a little confused, so that could be part of the problem. But it's fine. Edge is a fun character. Next one I read was oh man, everybody drink whenever I say that. Next one on the list, number 84, was Tales Told Around a Strange Fire. This one was sent to me by the author. It is a series of vignettes told within a framework of basically we're living in this society where this bizarre fire has appeared, and if you throw stuff into it, It maintains its size. If you don't, it begins to grow, and they're concerned that it will take over the world, I guess. And so they have these people in this future society who they just hang out around this fire and they throw debris, they throw shit into it. And then they're telling stories to each other as they're doing that. And so it's like kind of like a bunch of short stories, but the short stories themselves kind of range the gamut, from being scary to sci-fi to interesting to kind of boring. And then the way that it's all wrapped up in the end, I just couldn't quite figure out what the point was, like what it all meant. The author is definitely trying to make some political statements here, and tie it into our own society and some sort of deeper meanings, but I just didn't quite latch on to the meaning there. Then we got Burial Rites, also known as The Ice King. I read this for Ebes as well. This was a weird one. It starts out feeling very much like a slashery horror movie, and then gets boring, and then gets interesting again, but is more like a Nordic lore fantasy mythology thing. So it just tonally felt all over the place, and I just didn't quite know what to make of it. And I think there was a lot of disappointment there because I was hoping it was more straight up horror, like Viking comes back from the dead and just kills people. And there's a bit of that, but it's like there's more to it, but not necessarily in a good way. I don't know. Yeah, this is where it falls. Number 82, Night Runner, the Gemini Man. I believe this was going to be set up as a series, this like a cult detective series, and then it never took off, and this was the only one. It was a fun intro book. Like it starts out with a very interesting premise, very violent, bloody, gory opening, fun character, and then he's sort of trying to solve this mystery, and it gets kind of lackluster and boring, picks up a bit at the end, but yeah, on the whole, it's all right. I feel like we're in the part of the list. Shivers, number 6, The Haunting House. Again, same thing I said about the last talked about the last Shivers book. Same points. This one is just a little more outrageous, a little more fun, a little more scary, but again, not anything to write home about. Number 80, Dragonflight by Anne McCaffrey. This was a weird one for me. As I mentioned when I talked about it, the first book in the Dragon Riders of Pern series, I really, really like the world building, and yeah, this world that she has set up where we're on this like far future, we're on this planet in the future, and we had technology at one point in time, but we've kind of forgotten it, and so now we live in like this sort of medieval style existence, but there's still technology around, and these threads fall like once every 500 years, and if they hit the ground, they like infect it or whatever. And so they have these dragons and these dragon riders that blow fire at the threads to keep them from hitting the ground. Really cool concept. I just found the writing to be terrible. I don't know if it's just me, but I just like really struggled to get through it just because of the prose. Maybe that's a me problem, but I couldn't stand it. And next one is Animorphs 37, The Weakness. This one is like a very mid Animorphs adventure. Jake has to leave town with his family on vacation or something, and so there's a bit of a power vacuum with who is in charge of the Animorphs. Delves on a couple interesting themes of leadership and stuff, but definitely not like a real winner for the series either. Number 78, Second Star by Dana Stabenow. This was a cute little book. It sort of reminds me of like a West Wing or something, where you've got these like characters just walking around and they're talking about how they're running stuff on this spaceship, and And yeah, I don't know. Not a lot happens. I think it was probably setting up for a series. And then some things do start happening at the end, and that was fun. I don't know. It was just very fine for me. A very light science fiction kind of fun frolic. It was okay. Number 77, High Balls and High Kicks. This is a short sort of novelette, more recent book where the writer is trying to make these sort of throwback action books to when action books and action movies were more of a thing. This one in particular, he was trying to sort of do an homage to the old Cynthia Rothrock movies, which is fun. And I think he does just that. It's a quick, fun action book. It's decently written. There's not much more to it than that. Like, if you want a quick, fun action book in the vein of Cynthia Rothrock movies, then here you go. But it just wasn't, like, I don't know. There wasn't much more than that, which is fine. Yeah, it's fine. Next one was The Pirate Paradox, which is another one of the Robert Silverberg's Time Tours ones. This one takes place with pirates. It was slightly better than the other one, but not as good as the others that I haven't got to yet. Number 75, The Fortress of the Pearl, one of the Elric books. And this one takes place between the events of like 1 and 2, but was written in the 80s versus the 60s or 70s or whatever. But I read it in order. I need to continue on with the Elric series, but I just haven't been loving it so far. I feel like it suffers from something I just struggle with, which is where there's like not a lot to engage me into the plot. It's not a very complex plot. It's just kind of like, we are going on a quest. I have encountered this weird thing. Let's fight it. Oh, we've defeated that. Oh, now we've encountered this weird thing. Let's fight it. Oh, now we've encountered... And I'm like, okay, well, Michael Moorcock has thought of a lot of interesting things for you to fight, but like, how long do I care? And yeah. I mean, Elric's a cool character and all, but I don't know. I'll continue with the series at some point, but... Number 74, Goosebumps 32, The Barking Ghost. This was another one where like there's some spooky elements. It's fun. It's not that fun though. And I was kind of bored by it for a lot of it. But then the ending is like really fun, which made this one jump up the list. Number 73, Against the Odds, Grizzly Attack. I read these Against the Odds books as a kid, or a couple of them. And so I've been wanting to track them down and read them as an adult. And they are definitely more serious than like Goosebumps. They're more survival books. So like there are scary elements, but they're more realistic situations and reactions. And this is about surviving a grizzly attack in Alaska. And it was well done and fun. Again, nothing too exciting, but yeah, it was fun. And then we got Goosebumps number 31, Night of the Living 2. Again, not a big Dummy fan. I do remember liking this one more than the third one, and maybe more than the first one, but it is what it is. And then Goosebumps 37, The Headless Ghost. I feel like I really liked how this one started out, and then it kind of lost me along the way, and just wound up being okay. And then Goosebumps 41, Bad Hair Day. This is one that is a bit more silly, if I'm being honest. But it's one where the silliness kind of worked for me. Like, it was fun. Yeah, it was all right. And then we've got Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's The Lost World. Definitely the oldest book on this list. A bit of a classic. And it is an entertaining adventure story. Nothing against it at all. I just felt like the writing is a bit dated, the pacing is a bit slow, and while this is no fault of the book itself, the story has just been, I've seen it. I've read it countless times. And I know this is like the first time that was done, and that is important, and I respect that. But it's like at this point, as a modern reader, like old news. Been there, done that. I don't know. In terms of my own personal entertainment, I'm not saying like in terms of like how much respect this book should get, but in terms of my own modern entertainment, it was like, it was fine. Then we've got The Robin Hood Ambush. This is another book in the Robert Silverberg's Time Tour series. This was a fun one. I enjoyed this. Yeah. It's more fun than the others and less fun than the rest. All right. Next, we've got The Client. This is another one that was sent to me by the author, a more modern book. This was a psychological thriller about this woman who is married to this man, and she writes freelance stuff for people. And she's had this one client who has paid her to do some editing on his random writings. He pays her very well, and he pays her consistently to the point where she's almost had to not seek other work for years and years and just hasn't really thought about it. And then one day he like disappears, and with it her income disappears, and she also just starts wondering like, where did this dude go? Who was he anyways? And she starts looking into this, and so it's a bit of a mystery. It's well written, it's interesting. The problem I had with it, and the reason it's not higher on the list, is that I predicted the ending like super early on, which is unfortunate, because then the rest of the book just feels like, all right, we know what's going to happen, let's just get there. And then I get there, and exactly what I thought was going to happen happened, and then you're like, oh, it's just kind of disappointing. And then we've got Time Crime Inc., which is another one of the Robert Silverberg's Time Tours books. This one is in Detroit or Chicago with the mob. It was fun. And then number 65, Dead Center Chains. This one is a horror slasher book that takes place in the world of disc golf. And I'm a big disc golfer and a big horror fan. And so I was like, this book was written for me. And the book itself is written very interestingly. Like, the prose is like, it feels like it was written by like this like disc golf stoner dude. And it comes across with all this like slang and stuff, and it's like a lot of fun to read, actually. And then you start getting into the slasher horror of it, and it's okay. It's all right. But then we get to a point where like it starts getting into some bizarre territory with like almost fantasy elements, and it goes a little over the top. Some fantasy, like supernatural sort of stuff. I really wish he had just stuck with making it just a slasher instead of going where it went. But it's fun. Next, we've got Elric of Melniboné, the first book in the series. Similar to what I said about the other one, I like the character, I like the world. I just feel like this, I don't know, this sort of like and then storytelling just doesn't do much for me. Number 63, Glory's End, another one in the Robert Silverberg's Time Tour series. I like this one more than the others. And then number 62, The Influence by Bentley Little. I love Bentley Little. He is a bit formulaic, but I like the formula. He takes the mundane and escalates by sprinkling in the bizarre until the end of the book. It's just batshit. And this one is one of his more modern books. I felt like it was fine. The problem is, usually when he's sprinkling in the bizarre elements with the mundane, we are, as the reader, are wondering, what is going on? What does this mean? The problem here, I think, is that he tells us very early on what's going on. And so as things escalate in the bizarre, I just cared less, I guess, because it wasn't a mystery and I already knew what was causing it. So it didn't have as much of an impact or a punch, I think. And then I read 61, The Sunken Door by Levi Wallace. Levi Wallace is in our corner of BookTube. He has his own channel. Nice guy, and I read his book. It has very Stranger Things, Kids on Bikes, Stephen King horror vibes with some very supernatural mythological elements tied in. I liked it. I like his writing style. I thought I did get personally a little confused by some of it, but that's just because I'm an idiot. And yeah, I mean, it's good. Like I said, I got lost a little bit, which is why it's lower, but I think that's probably just on me. And then Goosebumps 30, It Came From Beneath the Sink. People hate on this one because it's about an evil sponge, but I don't care. I liked it. It's a fun evil sponge. And then Haunted Mask 2, which of course is not as good as the first Haunted Mask, but was very entertaining. I liked the twist of like he's not turning into this demonic angry creature, he's turning into an old man, and how actually frightening that would be to start turning into this decrepit old person. It's great. And then I've got number 58, Mistborn 3, The Hero of Ages. For a while there, I was trying to get into epic fantasy just because I felt like it was a missing hole in my knowledge of literature. And I've read some good stuff and some not so good stuff, and I felt like the Mistborn trilogy has some fantastic world building, some really interesting stuff, some well done characters, and a whole hell of a lot of bloat and unnecessary pages and unnecessary writing. Like, just cut that shit down. The third one wraps everything up, and while there's some good stuff to it, the ending is I wasn't sure what to think about it, and I'm still honestly not sure. I don't think I like it, though. And that's why it's sitting here. I mean, there's some fantastic stuff in this series. So, like, it should probably be higher, but the ending is like, huh? You know? It's like that. It's like, huh? There's my acting skills for you. I don't know. And then I have Bobaverse number 5, Not Till We Are Lost. I really like the Bobaverse books. The first 3 acted as kind of a trilogy. I'm not going to go into what it's about, but it's like a science fiction with a silly sort of edge, a humorous tone. First 3 were kind of a trilogy, and then the 4th book was a standalone adventure, and I loved the 4th book. It was my favorite one, maybe other than the first one. Unfortunately, I think I was alone in that because a lot of people hated it, and they went back with the 5th book to sort of starting this another trilogy. And I don't know. I don't even remember the threads of plot that we've begun, and that's not a good sign. But it's still a Bobaverse book. It's fun. They're always fun. And then next we've got To Your Scattered Bodies Go by Philip Jose Farmer. I read this one with Ira from SF Words of Wonder. It's about when you die, you go to this long river that just stretches on forever, and on the banks of the river is every human that's ever existed. Very interesting concept. I think the problem is the concept itself was better than whatever Philip Jose Farmer did with it. He had this incredible concept, and then he was just like, shit, now what do I do? And the book kind of meanders along until it ends, and there's a whole series, but from what I've heard, it just kind of isn't worth reading the whole thing. It was interesting, certainly, and I took a lot out of it, and I really liked it, but I think it could have been better, and I probably won't continue. Number 55, The Willows by Algernon Blackwood. Very, very classic old horror. And I think what it does fantastically is atmosphere. I mean, really, really atmospheric, beautiful, sort of chilling prose. But to me, that was kind of it. There's not much actual story here, and I'm definitely a story guy. And so while I enjoyed being put in these creepy woods for a bit, that was kind of it. Like, yeah, scary trees are scary. Number 54, Deathlands 6, Pony Soldiers. Let's see here. Deathlands number 6. The Deathlands series is a post-apocalyptic series with, a handful of sort of science fiction elements. Basically, they can get in these little teleporters and teleport to a different place in America, and that's why each book starts with them sort of going on this standalone adventure. And this one has them fighting mutants and stuff in somewhere in the Southwest, and there's this group of people who are acting like they're these like Wild West soldiers fighting these Indians, and it's sort of like the author wanted to write a Western novel set in the Deathlands world, and it was fun, but not the best Deathlands I have read by any means. And then I read Sandworld, number 53, Sandworld, and this one I was expecting to be like a great of science fiction horror, because I read that somewhere, and it starts out being this like super fun adventure-y science fiction book, and then throws in these really scary, creepy elements of like these vampires on another planet, and I was super into it. And then it does take a bit of a turn, and it gets a little weirder and a little sillier, and I don't think I hated it as much as Jake from Pulp Mortem did. He told you to stop reading at a certain page. I enjoyed the rest, but it does, there's like, the horror's gone, and it just gets a little weirder, and I don't know, tonally I wish we would have just stuck with something. Number 52, The Sailor on the Seas of Fate, the second book in the Elric saga, which has definitely been my favorite one thus far. Has Elric on this sort of bizarre liminal space boat. It was fun, and it was weird. It still suffers from the sort of and then thing, but fun and weird. Then we got Animorphs number 34, The Prophecy. Oof. I went through, because I can never remember with the titles which book does which. And I went through and I put like a couple word description next to all the Animorphs ones just so I could remember which one was which. But I forgot to do it for this one, and I don't know. This is where I put it on the list. Number 50, finally made it to the top 50, and we're only, oh my god, an hour in. Should I separate this into a part 1 and a part 2? Yeah, I probably should. Shivers number 4, The Animal Rebellion. I really liked this one, actually. I thought it was a lot of fun in a very silly, over-the-top way. It has some kids fighting some animals that kind of came out of a video game. Animorphs number 32, The Separation. This is sort of a sillier one, or a more lighthearted one, in which Rachel is a starfish and she is split in half, and she sort of comes back alive as two different girls, one of them adopting certain traits of her personality, the other one adopting other traits of her personality, and it, silliness ensues. Then we've got Animorphs number 35, The Proposal. This one has so it's a Marco one, deals with Marco's dad, like dating and some other things. I don't remember why I put it here, but I think I liked it. And then we've got Scorpio number 2, Scorpio Rising. The Scorpio series is it's about this alien who gets an orb from his planet that he doesn't really know how to use, and he winds up accidentally using it, and it teleports him in time and space back to medieval France. And he meets this woman, and they sort of go off on this adventure together. So book 1, he's in medieval France, and then they zoom away on the orb, and they wind up in England somewhere in time, and then the third book they're in Russia, and etc. They're a bit formulaic, and I do remember number 2 being my least favorite. Number 46, Scorpio 3, Scorpio Descending, where they're in Russia, was slightly better. And then number 45, Scorpio 1, I enjoyed the best so far. I don't like that they're a little bit formulaic. Like, they arrive, they get into mischief, they leave. They're being hunted by some of the bad creatures from his planet. They're fine. I enjoy them. I'm actually currently reading, I've got it right here. Currently reading the next one in the series, and it's probably my favorite one so far. So I'll talk about that at some point in time. And then we've got Caesar's Time Legions. This was my favorite book in the Robert Silverberg's Time Tours series. I felt that it did a really good job of changing it up a little, because we do go to the future. We kind of go to the future and see how going back to the past and altering it has affected things. It's sort of like, what if Rome never fell? It's really interesting. It has a lot of actual Roman history in it that I also found interesting, and I really enjoyed it. Number 43, The House by Bentley Little. This is another Bentley Little book that very much breaks his normal formula, which I think was beneficial in some ways and less beneficial in others. It follows too many characters, and so the first 5 or 6 chapters is each character kind of going through the same thing, and it gets a little repetitive. And then the second half has this bizarre concept of this house on the borderland between dimensions that these people have been taken to keep out the evils from entering our world, and it gets really heady and bizarre, and I enjoyed it. 42 is Chambleau. This is a novella or novelette, and it's sort of it's a Northwest Smith story, who is basically Han Solo sort of character. And there's this creature called the Chambleau, and it was fun. It's a fun sort of classic sci-fi adventure story. Number 41, Sand and Steel by our very own T.H. Brandt of Secret Fire Books. This is a collection of stories in the sort of fantasy sword and sorcery genre, and he does a great job. There was one in particular that I loved. The one with it's been a while since I've read it, but the barmaid lady, and there's this scary dude who comes into the bar, and it's great. Tim can write. He writes very interesting stories, and I really liked it, and I needed to check out his next books. Goosebumps number 28, Cuckoo Clock of Doom. I really, really like this one. I think it's kind of brilliant, and it has maybe the darkest ending of any Goosebumps book I've read, which I very much appreciate. Number 39, Fear Street Lights Out. I've only read a handful of Fear Street books. This is probably my favorite one thus far, and there is usually in these 90s YA books, they feel very mild. They feel like they're written for young adults, but this one has a kill in it that's not just oh, so-and-so was stabbed. It's pretty gruesome and unique. It takes place at a camp, and it's just a fun 90s book. I liked it. And then we've got Down a Dark Hall by Lois Duncan. Another 90s YA thriller. This one with a bit more of sort of supernatural elements about these girls living at a school, a sleepaway school for sort of gifted children. And I really like the sort of hook of it all, of how it all came together and why they're all there once you figure out what is going on. The next one I read, 37, Signpost to Terror. This one was another YA thriller. I really liked this. It's not scary so much as it is this kind of cat and mouse, lost in the woods sort of survival thriller, which is right up my alley, and it's well written, and it's good. Number 36 was Visser. This is one of the Animorphs Megamorphs books, which are double or triple length books that sort of dive into a certain piece of the Animorphs lore. This one being the Visser, one of the Vissers, the Visser being a military ranking in this race of evil Yeerks, which is what the Animorphs are fighting. It was good. I enjoyed it. Number 35, Captured by Michael Sarian. I bought this because it looks like a VHS tape, which is amazing. It feels like a very like neo-noir thriller, murder mystery type thing. I enjoyed it. And I think the ending has some sort of like twists and turns that come out in a way that is very satisfying. The next one on my list is Cold Front by Barry Hammond. I read the re-release of this from Fathom Press. It is about these Canadian sort of blue-collar people who kind of sort of accidentally kill their boss. Not really accidentally. They're not good people. And they take a bunch of money and they take the body and they drive out into the woods in Canada during a blizzard to try to hide the body. They wind up getting lost in the woods in this terrible weather. They find a cabin. At the cabin is this beautiful woman who is kind of creepy and might be dangerous, and some supernatural horror elements come together. I believe it ties in a bit with the Wendigo. It was good. I liked it. Good horror, short, fun. Next, number 33, Carnosaur. This is, people have described it as Jurassic Park for people who like to crush beers. It's about this mad scientist who is genetically breeding dinosaurs to, for reasons. And one of them, or a few of them, get out and just wreak havoc on this small British town. And it's fun. And it's got dinosaurs eating people. And that's all there is to it. And that's all I wanted. And I got it. And the movie has a woman giving birth to a dinosaur. So go check that out. And number 32, The Coming of Conan the Cimmerian. So this is the big bind-up collection of like, there's like 3 of them that collect all of the Conan stories by Robert E. Howard. This is the first one and was the first Conan I had read. I thought a few of the stories were splendid, fantastic works of literary wonderfulness, like Tower of the Elephant and a few others. I did find some of them, which is why it's not way towards the top. I found some of them to be just a bit tiresome, and I don't know. I just didn't get into them, and I feel bad saying that. I feel like I need to revisit it. I must be wrong. People are obsessed. But I mean, it's great. It's great. Conan is great. Robert E. Howard's a great writer. Like I said, some of the stories are just top tier, some of the best fantasy I've ever read. I just found that a lot of the stories I was kind of just not into. And I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have binged it and just read a bunch of Conan at once and should have split it up. But number 31, Charmed Life by Bernard Taylor. This is a horror book. Well, Bernard Taylor is a horror writer, but the book itself feels much more like... I don't even know, a bizarre sort of fantasy. It's about this guy who's going about his day, and in the background you see these, not in the background, but elsewhere, there are these people who can view the happenings of the world, and they can sort of influence, they can be like, we don't want this to happen. Like, we're viewing this scene from the future. So we know that this guy is going to die, and that's going to lead to this, and then tying to this political assassination happening the way we want it to happen. But there's this one dude that keeps... they see a scene in the future where he's going to die, and every time he gets there, he makes like a slight change and does not die. And so he's like evading his fate. and they're trying to figure out why and how this guy sort of ties into this major event that's going to happen. And so part of the book follows that mystery, and part of the book follows just this man and his very tragic, sad life. And it's really interesting. It's not remotely horror, but it's very well written and very interesting, and I liked it. Number 30, The Light at the End by Skip Inspector, one of the seminal books in the splatterpunk movement. This is a vampire tale set in grimy New York. And it's just fun. It's just a fun vampire tale with lots of slasher-y, gory stuff. And I liked it. Number 29, Otherworld. This was an interesting one because I loved the writing. I was so hooked. I could feel the Amazon thick jungle air. I could feel it. And the characters felt alive and vivid and real. It's a bit slow paced. And the ending, I don't know. It didn't quite do it for me, I guess. And I don't know what I would have rather happened, but it was just kind of, I don't know. You know? But it's interesting. It's sort of like I don't know, like a fantasy tale of like good versus evil forces, but very slow. But I just loved how it was written for some reason, and that's why it's so high. Number 28, Dinotopia Lost. This was my first Alan Dean Foster book, and it ties into the Dinotopia world. And again, this was just a fun adventure. I really enjoy the Dinotopia, like Lost World concept, and this kind of brought it to life in an adult novel, and it was just fun. I mean, there's really like nothing too groundbreaking here, but it's just fun. It's just a fun adventure, and I enjoyed it. Number 27, Fresh Hell, Autumn Crow High, written by BookTube's own Cameron Chaney from Library Macabre. I really liked this book a lot. Cameron Chaney is genuinely an excellent writer, and also has a fantastic BookTube channel. He took everything we love about 90s young adult horror books and sort of amped up the blood and gore, amped up the intelligence, amped up the emotion and the meaning, and wrote this great novel. It's great. I loved it, and I can't wait to read the next one when it comes out. Number 26, In the Mall of Madness, by A.D. Arrow. When I read these, I was honestly kind of blown away because it does a similar thing that Cameron Chaney's doing, in that it takes like the middle grade books that we know and love from the 90s and just takes the pieces and parts that make them great and throws away the shit that makes them boring or silly. And he makes like exactly what I want to read when I'm revisiting Goosebumps and usually am not getting. But he makes the book that I would have wanted to read. And they're just a lot of fun and really well done. And they all have such beautifully dark endings. And so at number 25, I have the third book in his series, Clowning Around, which again, really fun, really well done, very spooky, and again, very dark, but also has a lot to say just about, deep stuff. Number 24, When Darkness Loves Us by Elizabeth Engstrom. This is two novellas put together. The first one is about this woman who disappears. She gets stuck in a cave, and it goes to some bizarre, dark, creepy, incredible places. I loved the first novella. Second novella, really, really interesting. Really, really interesting. Something about it didn't quite work for me. I think it could have been done slightly better in how everything wrapped up, but still very good. Yeah. Number 23, The Last Argument of Kings. This is, again, another remnant from when I was trying to get into fantasy, epic fantasy. This is the third book in the Blade Itself trilogy, and unlike Mistborn, I kind of loved how this all wrapped up. I do think that these books are just too long. I don't get why they need to be that long. But I thought that how this series wrapped up was fantastic. So there you go. Number 22, Thirst. This one was a really, really interesting, well done book, and I had a great time reading it with the Bookubus. And this one was, it was a sort of sexy vampire book, which is what I expected, but it turned out to be so much more. It has a lot to say and sort of philosophize on about just life and the meaning of things and why we do what we do and all that. And there's also some parts towards the end where it goes into sort of bizarrely like fantastic, like dark fantasy, Clive Barker-esque territory. And yeah, it was just, I really loved it. I really loved reading it. It is a great book. Number 21, The Swamp Slayers. This was the only book I've read so far out of the adult Western series, The Trailsman. And my God, this was a shitload of fun. Adult Westerns are Westerns that have 3 explicit sex scenes in each book. But this one was a lot of fun. It's like this guy, the trailsman, who basically, sniffs out the trail of things. It's like a mystery, basically. People hire him to like, hey, find this whatever. Anyways, he winds up in the swamps of Louisiana in the bayou, where you've got these like this like scary giant bald dude straight out of a horror movie, and you've got these like weird creepy murdering midgets, and like alligators are attacking him, and he's fucking people. It's great. It's violent. It's fun. I loved it. Number 20, you've got The Ascent of D13. This was just, I really like climbing stories and climbing books. This is probably, honestly, nothing to write home about, but personally, I really enjoyed it. It's just about this plane that crashes holding a piece of secret government technology. It crashes on the border between Russia and some other country, I can't remember. But basically, they have this American and this American team and British team of climbers climb up to retrieve the government technology from this plane before the Russians climb up the other side and get it first. A series of events happen, and basically at the top, the only 2 remaining are this one Russian woman and this one, I can't remember if he's British or American guy, and they have to work together to get off the mountain alive. And I mean, you can see where all that's going. It's a bit predictable, but like it's well done, and I really liked it. Next, we've got number 19, Butcher 26, The Terror Truckers. This is what I want out of my men's adventure. It's less serious than The Executioner. It's more outlandish and outrageous and just silly, over-the-top action and ridiculous. And that's all I wanted, and it was a lot of fun. Next, we've got number 18, Animorphs 31, The Conspiracy. Animorphs, when done right, is brilliant and beautiful, and has a lot to say about war and ethics and meaning and morality and child soldiers and yeah, this was a great one. It involves Jake and his brother, who has this leech-like alien infesting his brain. So he has to basically he gets in this position where he has to choose, like, should I kill my brother because my brother is infested by this alien, and is he going to make a decision that's going to harm the entire human race? And it wrestles with some very mature themes for a kid's book, and this was a good one. Number 17, After Sundown. This was a horror book set in winter and dealing with some supernatural themes, which is usually not my favorite brand of horror, but this was done very well. Yeah, I don't have a ton else to say about it, but it was a good one. It was a good horror book, a good winter horror book, if that's what you're looking for. Number 16, Edge 5, Blood on Silver. Again, this is the Violent Western series, and this is the one of 2 Edge books I read this year, and this was the better one. This is just batshit, balls to the walls, violent, bloody Western with just like someone getting killed violently every couple pages. It never slows down. So much fun. Number 15, Dungeon Crawler Carl 2, Carl's Doomsday Scenario. Yes, I jumped on the bandwagon and tried out the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, and damn it if it's not just a load of fun. It is humorous, it is interesting, it is fast-paced, and it's just fun. I'm not even a gamer. I don't really even play video games, and it's just undeniably fun. And I like having fun when I read. Number 14, Nostalgic Nightmare. This has been my favorite of the ADRO Bumps in the Night books thus far. And this one, to me, was so brilliant and was raised higher on the list because it sort of makes a commentary on why my generation is so nostalgic for the 90s and for things that happened in the 90s, and what that means now that we are older adults having children of our own, and how people can get lost in wanting to return to their childhood and their past and be nostalgic, and how that could be scary for their children. And it's just brilliant, at least for someone my age who has a child. Like, this was brilliant. Number 13, Hard to Be a God by the Strugatskys. This is classic science fiction about this future society where they send people out to other planets to be on the ground observing history. They're like a live recorder of history, but they're also kind of participating in it, but they cannot actively change things. And it's about how this man who is on this planet of like they're in the sort of medieval stage, and he knows that they're on the wrong path to achieving this like utopian society, and he knows that he can do something to change that, but he knows that he's not allowed, he can't. And so it's about how he struggles to hold this power and hold this knowledge and not be able to use it. And it's just a very well done, interesting, thought-provoking science fiction novel. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, number 12, Deathlands number 7, Dectra Chain. This ain't saying shit about shit. It's about some post-apocalyptic people who go to post-apocalyptic New England, where there's this like town that survives by whaling these mutant whales that are just giant, and there's these crazy mutant sea people, and it's awesome and action-packed, and they kill some mutant whales. Yeah, love it. And then you've got number 11, Dying of the Light, which I believe is George R. R. Martin's first full science fiction novel. And man, what an interesting one. Not action-packed by any stretch of the imagination. Very much a character study of this couple who used to be in love, and they meet on this quiet planet on the edge of the universe, and she is now in this bizarre relationship with this man who kind of controls her, and it's just about them, which might not sound interesting, but like George R. R. Martin builds this incredible world building, lore, backstory, all just for us to have this like very small character study kind of story, and I loved it. I thought that was Brilliant. Animorphs number 33, The Illusion. This might be one of my all-time favorite Animorphs books. It's basically just a gigantic torture scene of a child. Yeah, it's deep, it's dark, it's Animorphs at its best. And then you've got, at number 9, we're in the top 10 now, folks. Number 9, Goosebumps 33, The Horror at Camp Jelly Jam. And this is exactly what I was talking about in my last video, in that Goosebumps takes elements of scary, creepy, weird, silly, fun. Some of them hit one of those notes too hard, and the book doesn't really work. But this one sprinkles all of them in a perfect way. It's exactly what I want out of a Goosebumps book. It might be one of my favorites. It's definitely top 5. When I finish the whole series, I'll do a ranking video, but spoiler alert, this is definitely top 5 Goosebumps for me. Number 8 was Dungeon Crawler Carl number 1. Why? Because it's fun. It's fun, folks. And you know what? Books are allowed to be fun, and they should be fun. And sometimes they don't have to say anything, and they can just be fun. And this is fun. And then I've got number 7, number 6, and number 5. And they're all grouped together, sort of, because it's a trilogy. And while it is 3 separate books, it tells one complete, cohesive story. And that is the Silo series by Hugh Howey. I ranked them as number 7, Silo 2, number 6, Silo 1, number 5, Silo 3. But, I mean, really, who cares? It's just Silo, more or less. And this is a science fiction story. I love the writing. I love the way the story unfolds. I love the characters. I love the setting. And I just love that clearly Hugh Howey had a plan from start to finish. The way that it all ties in and ties together is brilliant. And it comes to an ending that felt like, yeah, of course. Like, that he knew that from the start. And he unraveled this puzzle for us through this trilogy. It's about these people living in a silo buried underground. They have all kinds of rules that they follow from this like book that was written by people. They don't know who wrote it, their ancestors. They don't know how long they've been underground in this silo. They just know they have to follow these rules. There's a camera on the outside pointed at a desolate, destroyed world, and they know that if they go outside, they will die. But they don't know why. They don't know how they got here. They don't know when they can get out, if ever, and they just live down there. And it unravels the mystery of all of these things, and it answers all your questions, and I loved it. Loved it. Number 4, The Chrysalids by John Wyndham. This is another classic science fiction book, and this one just hit for me. It just worked for me. It's the first John Wyndham I've read, and I just really, really liked it. I liked the characters. I liked the pacing. I liked what actually happened. I just really liked it. And I'm not going to talk about it too much plot-wise. I'm not going to get into it, but it's good. If you like classic science fiction, it's really good. It's really well done. I think one of the things I found is a lot of these old science fiction books have fantastic ideas, but the characters just feel like these sort of two-dimensional bad dialogue, like, I don't know. But these felt like real characters, real emotions. It felt like a real story couched in a fantastic idea. Number 3, Pin by Andrew Niederman, a horror book that is just so bizarre, so twisted, yet so expertly written and crafted. It's just a dark, demented work of art about these siblings and their weird atomic doll, or anatomical doll that their doctor father uses, and how they're just some messed up individuals, and it is creepy and fantastic. Number 2, Hunter's Blood by J.R. Cunningham. This is just a book about hunters, deer hunters who go in the woods and are hunted by some redneck woods people. That's it. But it's just written perfectly. Like, if you want a book about deer hunters who go in the woods and then get hunted, I think this is the best you could do it, you know? And if that premise doesn't sound interesting to you, you won't like the book because that's all it is. But like, if that does sound interesting to you, I think this is the best it could be done. It's just well written, well paced, well plotted, interesting, and it's exactly what I wanted. And I really like this type of book. So that's probably why it's so high. But number 1 is actually 6 books. So why didn't I split these up? I don't know. But it felt, I mean, the books are indistinguishable from each other. Like, this is one story. And I read it in like sort of a bound up 1-book version, but it was released as 6 books. And that is the Blackwater Saga by Michael McDowell. I've mentioned before how much I love Michael McDowell. He is the hidden gem of the Paperbacks from Hell horror era, in my opinion. And this is one of the best things I've read from him, probably the best thing. It's definitely the best thing I read this year. It is a Southern fiction gothic family drama. And really, I should just say that that's what it is, because people go into this going, oh, Michael McDowell, it's a horror series. It's like a very long Southern Gothic family drama, period. And occasionally, every few hundred pages, you have a scene of just shocking horror and supernatural elements. And then you get back into the family drama. And for whatever reason, I was so hooked on all of the characters. It's so well written. And I found that the occasional punches of supernatural horror were all the more effective by being so sparse. And it's my favorite thing I read this year. So there it is, folks. 110 books. And that's my worst to best. And I'm out. I'm done. I'm tired. My voice hurts. And there you go. Until next time.